Some new reaction now as the bridge scandal in the Garden State continues to grow. Investigators are looking into allegations that top aides to New Jersey Governor Chris Christie shut down access lanes to the George Washington Bridge for days as political retaliation against a Democratic politician. Governor Christie also under scrutiny for what he may have known about the scheme beforehand. Elizabeth Pran covering this story for us live in Washington with the latest. Elizabeth?
Hi, Jamie. Well, in a news conference on Thursday, Governor Chris Christie stood firm, saying he had no knowledge of the lane closures, that they were used for political payback. Christie said about the aide involved, he was, quote, stunned by the abject stupidity that was shown. Today, we are hearing from the mayor of Fort Lee, that's the borough that experienced days of nonstop gridlock traffic. He believes Governor Christie did not orchestrate the jam as retribution over the mayor not endorsing him for re-election.
Fort Lee's always will open their arms to a sitting governor. He came, he was candid. It was, I thought, a productive conversation. So again, I take him at his word. There's just a lot of stuff out there, though.
The reaction continues on Sunday public affairs shows. Some lawmakers supporting Christie as a role model for handling the scandal immediately. Others speculating whether this could impact the presidential race in 2016. Some say the story is simply still developing.
He stood there for 111 minutes in an open dialogue with the press. Now, only if Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton would give us 111 seconds of that would we find out some things we want to find out about Obamacare, Benghazi, the IRS.
But the possibility of legal action does continue to brew. Some are skeptical of the governor's denial, since many higher-ups in his administration knew about the scandal, and he claims he did not. Jamie, back to you.
Elizabeth, thanks for your report. We'll go to Eric now for more. Eric?
Yeah, Jamie, meanwhile, more subpoenas in the investigation are expected to come this next week. The next could be Bridget Kelly. She, of course, the governor's fired chief of staff, the deputy chief of staff, who could be summoned to testify before the New Jersey Transportation Committee hearings on the bridge scandal. You know, just hours after the governor's apology last week, one of his Port Authority officials, David Wildstein, took the fifth some 20-odd times during that hearing. But the chairman of the committee has told us there's no evidence yet implicating the governor.
So far, we have not gotten any direct email traffic, text message traffic, or anything that has the governor's name on it. But obviously, we also didn't ask everybody in the governor's office for their email communications.
And that chairman, Assembly Deputy Speaker John Wisniewski, who believes there was a cover-up by officials, joins us now here in the studio. Assemblyman, welcome.
Eric, thank you for having me on.
Good to see you. How come you don't believe what the governor says?
Well, you have to put it all in the context. The governor said he knew nothing until the morning of January 8th. But when this started, it started by a person very close to him. Bridget Kelly, his deputy chief of staff, sent an email to close those lanes. High appointees implemented, David Wildstein. When the lane caper became known to the executive director, Pat Foy, he shut it down on September 13. Starting then, all of his members of his senior staff, Michael Druniak, Regina Agia, Charlie McKenna, and others knew that there was something going on because they got copies of that email. They got copies of that communication. It's hard to believe in the middle of a gubernatorial election that the governor didn't have a conversation with somebody on his senior staff about a big problem in Fort Lee.
But as of now, is there a smoking gun that links the governor directly to this?
There's a link to the governor's office. There's a link to his senior staff. And it's hard to believe that in the midst of an election, his senior staff just kept him out of the loop. Bridget Kelly, who got the email, was in the chain of emails from Pat Foy saying, I'm going to reopen the lanes, was with the governor on that day when he went down to the Seaside fire scene. And so she spent the day with him and never talked about it.
Now, that email came at 7:34 in the morning or so from Miss Kelly to Wildstein, in which she said time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee. And then Mr. Wildstein says, got it. I mean, he didn't say what. What are you talking about?
Well, that's what's unbelievable here. I mean, you don't send an email saying it's time for traffic problems in Fort Lee, and you say got it, and that there was no conversation either the morning of or the day before or the week before. And that's the troubling thing here, is there's more to this story than we know, and Mr. Wildstein frustrated our efforts by taking the Fifth Amendment some 20 times.
Now you expect to subpoena Ms. Kelly. What if she, there's the email that she talked about. Can you get her emails? Can you get her cell phone records? Can you Or do you intend to try and subpoena the governor's emails, cell phone records, and this sort of thing?
We're going to take this one step at a time, and the trail has led us to Bridget Kelly, led us to Regina Agia, Charlie McKenna, Michael Druniak, Kevin O'Dowd, the current chief of staff, who's up for attorney general nomination. We need to talk to all of those individuals about what they knew and when they knew it.
What if they take the fifth?
Well, they may, but we also need to ask them for their emails, their personal and their governmental emails. We need to look at those documents. We got to where we are by taking a step-by-step methodical approach. We'll continue that. We'll look at each person of interest and move forward. But clearly, for the governor to say, I knew nothing from when this started in August all the way through September 13th, it's just not, till January 9th, rather, it's just not believable, especially when you look at the emails before Bridget Kelly's order. On August 5th, they were trying to arrange a meeting between Dave Sampson, the chairman of the Port Authority, and the governor. Was that in some way connected? We don't know just yet.
What about those this morning? You heard them say that, the governor has shown leadership. He's come forward. He's been forthright. He's taken action. He fired her and has done something about this, and that shows leadership.
It shows leadership after monumental, unforgivable mistakes were made. And so certainly apologizing is important, certainly saying he's sorry to Fort Lee, New Jersey, the legislature, but clearly he created the atmosphere that allowed this to start, to be implemented, and to be covered up. And that's his fault, and that's not leadership.
And the next step for you this week?
The next step is we're going to have our final legislative session on Monday. We're going to get sworn in for a new term on Tuesday. There's a session planned for Thursday to renew the subpoena authority, and we're going to issue additional subpoenas for both records and for people to come in and testify.
All right, this investigation is certainly not going away. Assemblyman John Brzezinski, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For joining us and filling us in this morning here on Fox News.
My pleasure.
Jamie?
All right, guys, thank you so much. We have a Fox News alert for you right at this hour. Iran is agreeing to implement the nuclear deal it reached with world powers back in November. And the new news is that the first steps are set to begin on January 20th. Now, President Obama releasing a statement saying that he welcomes the move by Iran, but in a statement he also says it marks the first time in 10 years that Iran will actually roll back parts of its nuclear program. Still, at least one reporter saying that the president will veto any new sanctions